Do you see the moment I turned the camera on, like literally the instant, Luna just jumped up onto the table. Cats just know. Good morning, hi. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Bethany and she is gonna knock some tape off, yeah. Okay, for today's video, it's gonna be a really chatty one. I actually just wanted to talk about all the books coming out in 2021 that I'm really excited for. There are quite a few. I think there's like probably 30. Could be more. That's pretty much it. I've got my computer here because I film on my phone, so I need to be able to like remind myself why I put some of these books on my anticipated list. Because some of them I know why I'm excited, and some of them I'm like, that sounds like a cool title, I guess. So I'm going to be putting the covers on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. Most of them do have covers by now. And these are all the books coming out up until next August that I'm looking forward to. So I'd love to know if you think I missed anything or if you are also excited for any of these books. So starting in January, there are 7 books in January I'm looking forward to. And I would say the number 1 is Lore by Alexandra Bracken. Alexandra Bracken wrote the Darkest Minds series, which is like a young adult dystopia about kids with magical powers. And it's really good. But Lore is going to be a book about Greek mythology. I'm going to find out exactly how it's about Greek mythology, but I recently loved the Song of Achilles. It was in my November wrap up, and I've been super into Greek stuff lately, so I'm going to give Lore a read for sure. Okay, yeah, I remember seeing the plot now. It's like every 7 years, 9 Greek gods are forced to walk the earth as mortals because of some bad thing that they did in the past. So this is like an urban fantasy set in New York City, and there is Athena is one of the main characters. So I love Athena and Artemis, my girls. So yeah, we literally can't go wrong with this. The cover is beautiful. I know one of the book boxes is doing a special edition of this one, and I am getting it for sure. So I cannot wait to read this one. There's also A Vow So Bold and Deadly by Bridget Kemmerer. The first 2 books in that series are Curse So Dark and Lonely and Heart So Fierce and Broken. And it's called the Cursebreaker Trilogy, so this is the final book. I am reading the first book this month. Don't know why I forgot that word. It's wrapped up in my advent calendar here, so I'll be reading that soon, and then hopefully the second one in January, so that I can read the third one kind of as it releases. This one is about a girl named Harper who has cerebral palsy, and she discovers a portal to a magical world. Then there's a prince, and I've heard great things. So Beauty and the Beast retelling, possibly. Free the Stars is also coming out by Hafsa Faizal, and that's the sequel to We Hunt the Flame, which I read in the summer. It wasn't like my favorite book of all time, but I did love the setting. It's set in like a Middle Eastern inspired fantasy world, which I always love. It's my favorite type of universe, I guess. So I will read this just because the cover is beautiful and the world is beautiful. And I didn't hate it, I just didn't love it, you know? This is what We Hunt the Flame looks like. So it's beautiful. Like, this is a stunning cover, and We Free the Stars is also beautiful. How many times can I say beautiful about this book? Next up is Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. She wrote The Hate U Give, and this is a companion following Star's father, like before he has kids, I believe. She writes amazing YA contemporary, and I can't wait to read this one. Ooh, an interesting one that's coming out in January is Winterkeep by Kristen Cashore. So this is a continuation of her Graceling series, which is Graceling, Fire, and Bitter Blue. I read these like forever ago, and I have no recollection of anything in them, but I remember liking them. So now I'm conflicted because I like the old covers, but I don't have them all yet. It's my dishwasher, sorry if you can hear that. But they're coming out in like brand new covers to match this one, so I'm probably gonna buy them. And I don't know what these are about, to be completely honest. I just remember that they're good. The other 2 I'm gonna have to look up. So I've got Cast in Firelight by Dana Swift. I remember seeing the cover for this one and being like, ooh, looks good. The series is called Wickery, an epic, heart-pounding fantasy duology about 2 royal heirs betrothed to be married whose loyalties are torn. Yeah, it sounds like a pretty typical fantasy, but in a very good way. Oh yeah, so I remember, this is why I added it, because I read the author's note. So she is white, but she is married to someone of another race. I'm not exactly sure, so she's got mixed race children. And there is like a note in her review of her own book that says, that kind of explains why it's not an Own Voices story, and she's basically tried to create a fantasy that represents her kids. My cat is losing her mind. Oh yeah, I didn't really need to read any further than that because I think that sounds pretty cool. And I love a good duology. Like, you don't have to wait so long as with a trilogy for all the books to be released. And if I want to reread this one before the second book comes out, I can. There's also She is sprinting down the stairs and like out to the kitchen. I've never seen her do that before. Whatever. feel like this is like a call for my attention, but I'm not giving in. Anyway, Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe. So she wrote some other stuff, and I don't remember it. This is a historical fiction, yes. So it's set in San Francisco's Chinatown during the Red Scare. Oh yes, when people were afraid of China, basically. That's familiar. So there's a girl named Lily, and it's a lesbian romance. It sounded cool, and I loved the cover. There's going to be a theme here. It's that I love the cover. So that's January. That's going to be a busy month. I've got so many books that I know I'm going to want to read in January, and then I have to read all of these now too. What a hard life. February has even more though, so let's get the big ones out of the way. A Court of Silver Flames comes out in February by Sarah J. Maas. So this is the next book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series. I hate these new covers. I don't love them. I don't think that they make me excited about the books. So I think I'm going to start buying all of the ACOTAR books in hardcover, and then I'm going to buy some sort of special dust jacket at some point because I just can't have mismatching covers. It hurts me too much. But I am going to obviously buy this the day it comes out. So this one's about Nesta and Cassian, and it's now classed as an adult fantasy, so that should be interesting. And I will read anything Sarah J. Maas writes. So there is also All the Tides in Fate by Adeline Grace. I have All the Stars and Teeth on my shelf and haven't read it yet. I think it's about pirates. Let's see. Vaguely. Okay, so there's a girl who is a princess of an island kingdom, and she has to prove her mastery of... Hi. You can't eat Christmas trees. Okay. She has to prove her mastery of something called soul magic, and then there is a pirate. She falls in love with a pirate. Cool. This one has pretty good reviews, and it's pretty dark, which I like. And I'm going to buy the second one, assuming that I like the first one. There's some other sequels in February coming out, which are sequels to books that I haven't read yet, classic. So The Mask Falling by Samantha Shannon is, I think, the fourth book in the Bone Season series, which is an urban fantasy about a girl named Paige who is being persecuted for her magical powers, I think. I have book 1 and 2 on my shelf and haven't read them yet. Probably still going to buy this book when it comes out, though, because I feel like I'm going to like it. There's also the Desolations of Devil's Acre by Ransom Riggs, which is the 6th and final book in the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series. So I am working my way through the series to get to this one. I'm just on book 3 right now, but they're pretty quick, so I feel confident. Another one that's kind of cool is Beneath the Keep by Erica Johansson. So this is a companion set after the events, I think after the events, but maybe it's before, to the Queen of the Tearling series. I remember very clearly reading The Queen of the Tearling when I was like, I want to say 17 or something, at my family's cottage, and I read it specifically because there was an announcement that Emma Watson was going to star in the movie. That obviously never happened, so I never read books 2 and 3, but I do own them now, and I'm planning to read them, so I will read the 4th one when it comes out. One of the adult books that I have on my list is The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. So she wrote The Nightingale and that other famous one, The Great Alone, which I absolutely love, 2 of my all-time favorite books. This one is set in like Dust Bowl America, so I don't know what decade that is, but it's set in the South, and it's got like raving reviews so far. And I love everything she's ever written. It's like just the perfect level of hard-hitting contemporary that will destroy my life for a couple days. So I will be buying this one immediately. And the rest on this list I have no recollection of, so let's look them up. The first one is called Amelia Unabridged by Ashley Schumacher, and it's got a really high rating, so maybe people have already read it. Let's see. This is, so 2 best friends go to an author convention to meet like their favorite author, and one of them gets to meet the author, and Amelia doesn't. And then her best friend is killed, and they were like fighting when she died. And then she basically gets a copy of the book, like a super rare edition of this book, and then tries to track it back to the source because she thinks it came from her friend. That was the worst plot summary I've ever given, but it sounds really cool, and I love a good book about books. So there's also This Golden Flame by Emily Victoria. And let's see what that's about. I think she wakes up an automaton and then they fall in love? Oh no. Sorry, there's an asexual and an aromantic character, so they don't fall in love. Representation and automatons. We also have Wings of Ebony by J.L. This is, oh yeah, this one sounded really cool. It kind of reminded me of Legendborn a little bit. So it's an urban fantasy about a girl from Houston, and she learns that she's kind of descended from gods. And she is taken away to a hidden island of magic wielders, and chaos ensues. It actually really reminds me of Legendborn because her mom dies at the beginning of it too, so a bit similar. Sabatahir, the author of An Ember in the Ashes, gave this book 5 stars, so that was enough to get me to add it to my anticipated shelf. Last one is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. People got an arc of this, or just like a copy of this, in their Illumicrate or Fairy Loot, some sort of book box, and it was a really cool cover, so it's been on my list for a while. It's in a series called Deathless, apparently. Okay, yes, I remember now. The only thing I read about this was that it's a West African dark feminist fantasy series, and I was like, yes. So, okay, we are moving on to March, which has a bunch of super exciting sequels. So first of all, Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare comes out in March, which is the sequel to Chain of Gold. I have ordered the Illumicrate edition of this, and I'll also be getting the regular one because it has to match my Shadowhunter set. So yeah, this is about the kids of the characters from the Infernal Devices, and they are all sweet little angels, and I cannot wait for this book. There's also Bonecryer's Dawn by Catherine Purdy. So I have, again, Bonecryer's Moon on my shelf, but haven't read it yet, so maybe I'll do that in February or March to be ready for this. This one, I believe, is about, like, Bonecryers, revolutionary. I think they do magic with bones, and it's enemies to lovers, possibly. The covers are really cool, and I'm excited. Rule of Wolves by Lee Bardugo is also coming out, so I have not read King of Scars yet, nor do I own it actually, but I will. I've been kind of back on my Lee Bardugo kick since I heard about the show coming out, so I'm really excited to get to this one. And finally, Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is a companion to Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which were two of my favorite reads of this year. So it follows their third sister, Eve, and she runs away to a bakery, I think, or a restaurant, and she gets a job there, and the chef is named Jacob, and I think they fall in love. They must fall in love, that's the whole thing. So I've never been so excited for a book in my entire life, except for maybe A Court of Silver Flames, and I'm buying this immediately when it comes out and binging it. I only have 2 books on here that I don't know about, so the first one is Sing Me Forgotten by Jessica Olsen. This is a Phantom of the Opera retelling. I love Phantom of the Opera. Okay, yeah, it's just a gender-bent Phantom of the Opera retelling, and that's all I know. The other one is Lost in the Neverwoods by Aidan Thomas, who wrote Cemetery Boys. So I finished Cemetery Boys and then immediately added this one to my TBR. Ooh, I don't think I ever looked up what this was about, but it's apparently a retelling of Peter Pan. And it's set in Astoria, Oregon, which I think is a real place, question mark. Peter Pan retelling. I love a good retelling, apparently. I'm very into those. So Aidan Thomas can do no wrong. Okay, now we are moving into April. So The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson is the 4th book in the Truly Devious series. I believe it kind of is going to start a separate mystery because the mystery in book 3 was pretty wrapped up. This follows a girl named Stevie who is obsessed with true crime, and she goes to a school called Ellingham Academy and solves a unsolved murder that was done there like 100 years ago. That was a lot of talking with my head. There's also Blessed Monsters by Emily A. Duncan. This is the 3rd book in the Something Dark and Holy trilogy, I think. The 1st book is Wicked Saints, and the 2nd book is Ruthless Gods. So I'm going to read those before I read this one. I actually have 2 copies of the 1st book, so I really hope I like them. I think they're about blood magic, and they're just really dark and cool, so... Ooh, this might be another one that I'm the most excited about. So The Crown of Gilded Bones, The Crown of Gilded Bones comes out by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the 3rd book in the From Blood and Ash series, following Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. I read both of those books very recently, and I can't wait for the 3rd. This is a fantasy romance following a girl who was the maiden, and then she falls in love with her guard. But there's so much more to it than that. There's like 17 plot twists in every book, and it's just impossible to keep up, but like in the best way. So I'm here for the romance, and I will be reading this ASAP. I was looking at like the whole Goodreads synopsis of these books, but they're so hard to summarize like quickly, so now I'm just trying to find like literally a 1-word tagline, or a 1-line tagline. Okay, so The Infinity Courts by Kemi Dawn Bowman. Sci-fi about a teen girl who has to defeat an artificial intelligence to save humanity, so that sounds good. A lot of people are really excited for this because she has written another very successful book, I think called Starfish, which I haven't read, but I trust other people's words. So we also have Witches Steeped in Gold by Shannon Smart. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce her first name, but it looks like it. This is a Jamaican-inspired fantasy about 2 enemy witches who have to band together. And I've heard great things from people who have the advanced copy for this, so it sounds really good. Next up, we have another retelling, apparently. So These Feathered Flames by Alexandra Overy is a queer retelling of The Firebird, which is a Russian folktale, and it sounds really cool. It's described as Three Dark Crowns meets Wicked Saints, 2 series which I have not read yet, but I'm very interested in, and I know they both have kind of like dark vibes, so I'm looking forward to that. I don't think I've ever talked with my hands so much in a video. This is ridiculous. Okay, now we're on to May, and again, there are some super excited ones here. So first up, we have One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, who wrote Red, White, and Royal Blue, which I adored. This one apparently is like a little bit more magical realism, but it involves a train, and it's about 2 girls and time travel, I think, so I'm sold. We also have Mr. Impossible by Maggie Stiefvater. So I feel like I think that I like Maggie Stiefvater, but I've barely read anything by her. I haven't read The Raven Boys, and I did read like her werewolf books way back in the day. But this is the sequel to Call Down the Hawk, which I obviously haven't read because I haven't read The Raven Boys, and it's a companion. But I just put it on here because I'm excited to see what people think. Victoria Aveyard is also coming out with her first book since Red Queen, and I really did not love Red Queen, but I loved Victoria Aveyard's writing. I just didn't like Mare as a protagonist, so I think that this could be great. Okay, so it follows a girl named Coraine who is kind of like, she lives on a far remote island, and then someone comes and tells her that she's part of a secret bloodline, and she leaves with a ragtag band of misfits to do stuff. I don't know, the cover's really cool and I'm gonna read it. Trisha Levenseller is also coming out with another book called Blade of Secrets, so let's see what that is about. So this is going to be a YA fantasy duology about a teenage blacksmith with social anxiety who has to go on the run to protect the world from a weapon she's made. Yeah, so I love the good social anxiety rep in fantasy. I think that's really cool, and I'm excited to see what it's like. And I love The Shadows Between Us. Haven't read any of her other books yet, but I have them all on my shelf, so maybe I'll get through some more before this one comes out. Another one I put on my list without knowing very much was In the Ravenous Dark by A.M. Strickland. This is about a pansexual blood mage who teams up with an undead spirit to start a rebellion among the living and the dead. Great. I don't have a ton of contemporaries on here because I do love contemporaries, but I tend to love them like after the fact. I don't know why. I don't pre-order a lot of contemporaries, you know, because they could be really hit or miss. But I did add Counting Down with You to my list, I think because I saw her on TikTok. Also, it has fake dating in it. So a Bangladeshi girl has 28 days to make the biggest decision of her life after agreeing to fake date her school's resident bad boy. Love a good fake dating trope. See, take a hint, Danny Brown. Yeah, I always mess up the titles. I forget which sister goes with which part. And I figured you can't go wrong with this. We're on to June. So a sequel that's coming out is A Psalm of Storms and Silence by Roseanne A. Brown. A Song of Wraiths and Ruin was a lot of people's favorite book of this year, not sure when it came out. I haven't gotten to it yet. Again, it's on my shelf, so I'll read it right before this one comes out. But this is, I believe, a West African fantasy. I know that I looked at the description, there's like some sort of competition and there's enemies to lovers, so I know I'm gonna love it, especially because so many other people did. There's also My Contrary Mary by the Lady Janies. So they wrote My Lady Jane, My Plain Jane, and My Calamity Jane. I am not planning to read My Calamity Jane just because I don't love westerns, nor do I really care about the subject of this one. And they're not a series, like they're just companions, so you can skip it really easily. But My Contrary Mary is about Mary Queen of Scots, who I love, so I'll definitely be picking this one up. Tahira Mafi is also coming out with her next contemporary, and it is Emotion of Great Delight. So it sounds pretty similar to A Very Large Expanse of Sea. It takes place just after 9/11, and it follows a Muslim American teenager. And I don't mean similar in a bad way, because obviously that book was amazing. So I haven't read the whole summary to see like the actual plot of this, but I know it's going to be amazing because Tahira Mafi is writing it. Okay, next up is Daughter of Sparta by Claire M. Andrews. Ooh, it also is a Greek mythology involves Greek mythology. So she has been training to be a warrior for Sparta, and then she encounters Artemis and she has to find some objects for the gods. I don't need to read anymore. I'm in. The other one that I remember being really excited about is Girls at the Edge of the World by Laura Brooke Robson. I think this is about gay pirates. Ooh, so there's going to be an epic flood, so end of the world. Love that. And people are like competing to get safe passage into the new world, and there's a royal family, and yeah, I think it is a lesbian romance. Yeah, great. As we get into the summer, there's fewer titles. So in July, I've only got 2. The first is The Graduate by Naomi Novik, which is the sequel to A Deadly Education, which again wasn't my favorite book of all time, but I did enjoy, so I'll be picking this up. I also have 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. She wrote Spin the Dawn, which I haven't gotten to yet, but again I will. And this one, so I think this is about an exiled princess who has to reverse a curse that turned her brothers into cranes, so it sounds great. The cover is gorgeous, so that was pretty much all I needed. Okay, and in August we've got 4 different ones. So first is Gods and Monsters by Shelby Mahurin. This is the 3rd book in the Serpent and Dove trilogy. I didn't love Blood and Honey, but still enjoyed it, and I'm definitely going to read this one. I've also been following her on Instagram, and I'm just like very obsessed with her life and her aesthetic now, so that makes me even more excited to read it. I also have Rise Up from the Embers by Sarah Rosh and Kristen Simmons on here. So they wrote a book this year called Set Fire to the Gods, and it's like a sci-fi, I think, about 2 different worlds and people. I haven't read it yet, obviously. I don't even own it, but I thought I would put the second one on my radar. The brand new series here are A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee, which I think is a dark academia lesbian romance. Yeah, it's set at a boarding school, so that's it. I also have A Dragon Bird in the Fern by Laura Rueckert, which seems to be a standalone, which is, I think, probably one of the first standalones on here. I think I remember that the reason I added this to my list was that it says it's set in a city of glittering canals, and I just love a good setting, but it's a fantasy. A girl takes her sister's place. Yeah, it sounds good, and the cover is beautiful. So those are all the books that I currently have on my list for next year. I'm sure there's some coming out like September, October, November that I haven't noticed yet, but I find they never have like the covers or the descriptions or anything, so maybe I'll make another video later on once there's more kind of details. Let me know if any of these sounded really good to you and if you didn't know about them, and I would love to know if you think I missed anything exciting that's coming out next year. Hope you enjoyed this chatty little video with a couple cameos from my cat, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Bye!